Melissa Finger with a Trauma Healing Center in Kansas City. I mean, Olathe.
Yeah.
It's Olathe. I call it Kansas City.
It's Kansas City area.
It's the Kansas City area. Anyway, today we do not have a guest with us, but we're going to be talking about a little bit about what's going on at Trauma Healing Center. And so let's just start off with that. What's new? What's exciting?
We do have new and exciting things.
Yeah.
We're actually launching a new program just in this last month or so. Technically, what the program does isn't necessarily new. Some aspects of it are, but we're just sort of couching a lot of what we do in a program called Safe Harbors. And our program is designed really to help educate the people in the community and bring collaboration. There is a lot of talk about connection that's needed. And I think connection is great. We have to have connection in order to build each other up and kind of live honorably according to Scripture. But we have to take it farther than that and go into collaboration.
Oh, yeah.
And really finding out, like, what are you doing? How can I help you? And where are the gaps that we see in our community? And how can maybe two organizations partner on meeting that gap? And so Safe Harbors is kind of the avenue for doing that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I've heard of Safe Harbor before. I mean, I think that a couple of the churches I've been to have a thing called Safe Harbor or something like that, or maybe that's one of their themes or something like that, you know.
I think the phrase itself is actually kind of common. If you Google it, you actually can get some government programs called Safe Harbors and just a few different things.
Fun.
But when we talk about Safe Harbor, kind of our meaning behind that is everybody needs a place to dock. Like we all need a safe harbor to be able to go to. And
That's true.
All of the other ministries in the area and organizations are doing work, really good work, but they need a place where they can go and say, hey, can we refuel? Can we recharge? Can we rest? And get training, get supplies and resources. And so we want to be the safe harbor for them.
That's true. So you're trying to create a Trauma Healing Center as a safe harbor then, right?
Exactly.
And I know we've had several meetings before where we're beginning to just help put together some of the questionnaires necessary to, I mean, it's a big project, but some of the questionnaires necessary to basically vet counselors and basically ask the right questions to make sure that we're presenting the right counselors to the population or the right ministries to the population.
Exactly. Because not every counselor is good at everything.
Yes.
And so a lot of the work that I do, I have people that come to me and they've just kind of had one bad counseling experience after another. And I could tell stories, but I don't want to re-traumatize anyone in our calendar podcast. So,
yes.
But it's hard because it doesn't mean that necessarily any of those people were bad counselors. It just wasn't a good fit.
Yeah.
And so as we try to vet them, yes, but also more importantly, just figure out what everybody does. Like, what are you good at? Because I want to send somebody to you in something you're good at.
Oh, yeah.
Not just because you have the label of counselor doesn't mean you can do everything.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
So you said that we have a little bit of a talk about, just you want to talk about maybe even dissociation today, right?
Yep. Dissociation is a big topic, and in some communities it is well more known more than others. Kansas City is one of those areas. But dissociation is one of the things that we are working to educate the community on because it's on a spectrum. So I'm gonna go a little psycho ed on you right here for just a minute. Dissociation is on a spectrum. Everybody dissociates. It's a beautiful God-given coping mechanism for when we're overwhelmed or stressed out about something. Some of the classic examples that you hear about is when you're driving home and then you get home and you don't remember the drive and you're like, did I stop at all the lights? That is, you dissociated. You maybe had a busy day at work or you have a busy weekend coming up and your body's like, I know how to drive this car. So your brain went off and did thinking while your body drove the car. So that's normal level healthy dissociation. But dissociation runs on a spectrum. And as you start to get a little bit higher on that spectrum, you have situations like shock, somebody going into shock.
Wow.
So one of the examples that I tell of that was actually a car accident that I had in my 20s.
Oh, wow.
And I was helping a friend of mine. Her and her husband wanted to go out on a date. So I said, hey, I'll come over and watch your kids for you. So I did. And then they got home kind of late, and I was driving home, was sitting at a stoplight, and got hit by I'm assuming it was a drunk driver because of how they drove off, but a rear-ended hit and run. And I remember like getting thrown through the traffic light and then seeing the car like swerve off madly into the distance.
Oh, wow.
And so I kind of got myself together enough to drive back to my friend's house.
Oh, wow.
And her husband, Randy, came to the door. And I just remember standing at the door, and I had a baseball cap on with my ponytail out the back. But the baseball cap was kind of crooked, and my hair was poking out everywhere. And I remember somewhere in my head having the thought, I should, like, fix that. But I couldn't.
Yeah.
Like, I was literally in shock from the car accident. And so they, of course, helped, and we got it all taken care of. That is dissociation, because my brain was like somewhat cognitively processing, but my body was not able to do what my brain was thinking. I was disconnected internally.
So you went to find somebody. I mean, I was just thinking you went to find help.
Yeah, exactly.
So you need to find people, safe harbors.
Safe harbors. Look, you're tying it in. You're tying it in. So that's kind of medium, low level dissociation. So if you kind of consider that and you think about how you can get kind of stuck in that mode, like I was stuck in that mode of finding help, of like, that's all I knew to do. I couldn't straighten my hat or fix anything. Find help was my kind of sole purpose. Yeah. When you think about something really traumatic happening to someone in childhood, they can get stuck in that mode as well. Wow. And when they get stuck in that mode, it is for much longer than I was stuck. I was stuck for maybe an hour at the most, while my friends helped me and we just kind of worked through the situation. But when that happens in childhood, before the brain is fully developed enough to be able to truly process what just happened, then you go through and you have that mode that's just kind of stuck in your brain. Wow. And that is more severe dissociation from childhood trauma.
And those can go because you're kind of like reliving the same situations over and over again for a matter of even years, just depending on the at-home lifestyle.
Exactly. You just relive it and you just kind of get stuck in it, and your brain divides. Because in God's beautiful design,
he is wonderful that way.
It just blows my mind. He created the mind so that it would separate, so that you could be able to, he knew that those shocking things would happen and we would get stuck. Yeah. So he's like, okay, I'll make it so that the rest of the brain can still function, even though you're stuck over here. So then you are kind of functioning out of almost two different selves. Wow. Two different states of mind.
Is there a name for that? Because I've heard a couple different names for that, of like the fracturing of the person. I forgot what.
Yeah, there's a lot of different names for that. Fracturing or splits or alters or
alters is the word.
Yeah,
alters.
I've heard before. It's probably the most common clinical word I would say would be alters.
It's like an alter self, almost like this part of you deals with this part of you deals with that, and so then you end up, when you take this into a counseling setting, well, it's like, hold on, we got to put the person back together.
Exactly, which is not as easy as it sounds. But that is, alter is a good word for it when you kind of take that abbreviated word out to altered state, because it is like the altered state, the me who was in the car accident versus the me who is just the everyday me. Right. Yeah. And so when you have childhood trauma, however, and when that dissociation kicks in as a coping mechanism, your brain is like, oh, this is how I handle trauma. And so then you just create altered states for anything that's overwhelming or traumatic. That's crazy. So by the time you're an adult, you could have a dozen or many more, depending on the level of trauma. So it's pretty intense and kind of hard to recognize. It's interesting, in the research I've done, there's a website called teachtrauma.com, and it's pretty neutral. It's not really affiliated with an organization. It just has a lot of research on it regarding trauma education and workshops and things like that. And I want to read some of the statistics on that website. It's I don't know if it's entirely focused on dissociation, but it is highly focused on dissociation. But these statistics are kind of crazy. They say that 56 to 70% of mental health professionals have no training in dealing with childhood abuse. Oh, wow. Which is crazy, because the stats vary, but one of the popular statistics for childhood abuse is 1 out of 4 women experience childhood abuse. Oh, wow. So that is a lot to have this many counselors that just don't have professional
And
training.
then, one of the first approaches with a counselor, I mean, I've worked with different counselors before, is, what happened when you were a kid?
Yeah. But interesting you should say that, because 30% of those who did receive training on working with childhood abuse only 30% of them felt sufficiently trained to actually ask those questions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 30%. So if you do get the training, then there's only a third of the counselors that have the training that feel like we can even ask about what happened in childhood. Sometimes it's on the intake form, but that doesn't mean that the counselor is going to pursue it.
Yeah, because, a lot of times, in order to help them walk out of that, they have to process through those things.
Exactly. And that's, I think once you receive training on it, and I wonder if that's a little bit of what's behind the statistic, you realize how complicated it is. And it's kind of like the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Yeah. And then, just to kind of throw a couple different ministries solutions out there, like there's a couple different solutions that kind of came out of this, like Theophostics, and there's a different, like, even freedom fighters here in Kansas City that, just help basically a counselor. I mean, they don't necessarily have maybe all the trainings necessary, but they bring the Holy Spirit into these childhood situations, and they're asking questions like, what did Jesus, what do you see Jesus doing during that time?
Exactly.
And because that's what, because a lot of times the problem is that they've actually, because of their childhood trauma, they actually don't like God, or they're viewing God through that lens.
Right. Which is what we do.
Which is normal.
Yeah, we view God through the lens of our childhood experiences. So when they're traumatic, you're exactly right.
And so then the one safe harbor that they should be guaranteed, which is God, then becomes not a safe harbor.
Exactly. And then the problem really there is that so many of those places look like safe harbors from the outside. And really, truthfully, many of them have very good hearts and very good intentions, but they just don't understand the roots and how to get at that. And that even though it happened 30, 40, 50 years ago, it's relevant.
Yeah, it's relevant.
It's very relevant. And so in those memories, like you're talking about, of going back to the childhood situations and memories that happen, the big thing there is they're getting those altered states unstuck.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to get them unstuck from what happened. And that just takes a little bit of time and a lot of preparation and education to be able to do that. So that is one of the things that's at the heart of the Safe Harbors program that we offer, is to give a training program. Our basic training program is called Working with Dissociative Clients.
Wow.
And we go through basic trauma skills, ethical considerations, which is really important, and how to recognize a dissociative client. And then we just kind of dabble a little bit into treatment. Once someone completes our initial program, the basics, then they are welcome to attend our monthly cohorts, where we actually help staff cases.
Oh, wow.
So if you're working with someone, whether you're a counselor in a prayer ministry or maybe a pastor or even somebody that's a medical professional, and you're like, I see this a lot, but I don't know what to do when this comes up, you can just pop in on one of our monthly cohorts after you've completed the basic training, and then we will help you staff it and say, okay, maybe I know, maybe Stephanie, my partner, knows, maybe somebody else here in the room knows, but let's see if we can work the problem together. And then we have additional trainings that are available to those people as well to kind of hone in on the treatment end of it. So we really just want to help Kansas City stabilize in this way and be more prepared to help whoever their ministry comes across.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So how long is the initial disassociative training?
Yes, the initial training is 2 days.
Oh, it's only 2 days.
It's only 2 days. Yeah, and let
2
me
days.
tell you, we've stretched it out like hour by hour every time we do a training. I'm like, I need more time.
So we're talking about 12 hours here, 8 hours?
We do usually from 9 to 2 or 3 o'clock on a Friday and a Saturday.
Okay.
So it's just over half days that we'll come in and do the training. And we do it really what we prefer to do is do it by organization.
Okay.
Doing just kind of a wide net, come one, come all. You just get so many different levels of experience and knowledge. And this is a complicated topic. And so to try to hit the level of everybody in the room and make it relevant to everybody is really hard. So we really like to go in by organization. You have a staff of 5, we'll come train your 5. You have a staff of 40, we'll train them.
Okay, so the Safe Harbor program that the Trauma Healing Center is doing, one of the biggest approaches you have, that's what we're just talking about, is helping people understand dissociative disorder. And so like it just providing the training so that their organizations will be safe harbors as well.
Exactly right.
So you're basically expanding the safe harbor into Kansas City.
Exactly. Well,
you're developing safe harbors.
Actually, what we'll say, because there are plenty of safe harbors that are already here that are doing this work. So we'll say we're identifying the safe harbors.
Okay.
Identifying the safe harbors that already exist specifically for trauma, because you don't have to understand about dissociation to be a safe harbor. But you do to be a safe harbor for the people who are dissociative.
Yes, yes.
So we just want to be clear that we're not being exclusive in that. We're just trying to help identify the people that are doing the work, and then the people that want to do the work, training them up so that they're equipped.
That's great, yeah. So is there anything else that you'd like to share about the Trauma Healing Center currently, or would you like to start to go into events?
Well, actually, I'll kind of connect us into events a little bit and just say that part of our collaboration in the community is actually this community calendar that we're doing. Yeah. Because collaboration happens in a lot of different ways.
That's true.
A lot of different ways. And so for us, one element of collaboration and of the Safe Harbors program is being able to come on here and say, hey, I've got this list of 6-7 different organizations. Yes. Let's promote what they're doing. Yeah. Let's help them be successful in their mission. Because I do not want every person in Kansas City coming to my little office building on Merlin Road for help.
Not enough room.
There's not enough room. But there are lots of good organizations where they can go and where they can receive ministry. So this is a big part of what we're doing.
Awesome. Yeah. So.
All right. Yeah, let me jump right in. We have some new ministries we haven't talked about in the last couple months. Not new to me, but probably new to some people who are watching. Deaf Transformation Bridge to Christ is a really great ministry. If you know someone who is deaf or hard of hearing, or a CODA, which is a child of a deaf adult, is what that stands for, they have a great healing ministry that's based on the Beatitudes found in Matthew 5. To really offer support to that demographic and to people who struggle with loss of hearing or who are deaf, maybe been deaf their whole life. Wow. It's really an underserved demographic. And they do a lot of healing work with them. So they have their registration is open they're going through their 4th cycle of recovery and support workshops, and their registration is only open until September 2nd. That's a pretty hard date on that, which is coming up quick.
Yes.
It's a hard date on that because just for confidentiality and safety of the group, they really prefer not to take late registrations. And so you would need to register by then. They meet the 3rd Saturday of every month from September through April of next year. Cool. So if you missed this one, you can catch the next one.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the buildings or churches that I know of, they at least have a deaf ministry where they get in there and they do Braille together and all this stuff.
That's awesome.
So I wonder if they've connected with this organization.
Yeah. Maybe. And maybe they'll hear about it through this. So KC Single Moms. We talked about them last month. They've got another workshop coming up. Yeah, they're back. I think they do these workshops every month. But September 6th, their next workshop for single moms is called Rebuild Meal Planning on a Budget. You don't have to be single to appreciate that. Like a family of 4 is us, and that's budget planning.
And we're just talking about the price of food is going through the roof.
Yeah, exactly. The budgets aren't getting bigger, but the bills are.
Yes. The budgets are not getting bigger, but you need to figure out how to do the meal planning.
Exactly.
Well, that's cool. So
Yeah.
Maybe I can attend that. Am I a single mom?
Do I qualify?
Do I qualify?
Just get somebody to come with you that looks like your mom. You have a single mom with you. So you can find more information at thesinglemomkc.org. Building Bridges Ministry has their monthly family tables coming up. That's for pastors and ministry leaders all over the area. Yeah. don't really have an agenda for those. They just come together and they talk and they get to know people, which is really valuable.
Yeah.
Their next two coming up would be September 7th at Hillcrest Covenant Church and October 5th at Colonial Presbyterian Church. But Building Bridges is doing another event that I'm actually really excited about. I'm registered for this one myself. They are doing a grant workshop for local nonprofits.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if you've ever tried to write a grant before.
Oh, no.
It's a joy. Yeah. I wrote my first significant grant last year, and it probably took me 3 weeks to do it. It was just kind of crazy. And now I have the template, so it's a little bit quicker to go through the process. But that is the grant world is a whole world in and of itself.
Yeah.
And Sherry Puckett has brought in a man that's really good at working with grants and has been doing it for many years. And he's going to offer this workshop for nonprofits to attend so they can learn more and maybe help fund their business.
So, I mean, I did an interview with Bobby Jo Reed. She does the Healing House in Kansas. It's called the Healing House. It's down on St. John's. And right when we walked in the door, she was just introducing me to some of her staff. And she pointed to the left and she goes, and this is our full-time grant writer.
Oh, that's amazing.
I mean, literally, how do you fund these things? With grants. I mean,
Yes.
it's an amazing amount of time and work. Anyway,
you probably just had a few people fall out of the chairs when they said that because it's hard to find a full-time grant writer. That would be like, what? Amazing. So, yeah.
But that's how you have a 60 person staff funded.
Yes, when you're a nonprofit, for sure.
Yeah, anyway.
So this class will be on September 9th. So you can find out more information for this or the family tables at buildingbridgeskc.org.
Wow. Yeah.
The Sending Project has their annual banquets right around the corner, Connection Revolution. They've got one on September 18th and the 25th, and they'll be at Hope Chapel in Olathe at 6 p.m. They are going to just kind of present all the things that they've been doing over the last few years, and they're a big outreach to our community.
I think they do this event like once a year, and they do a double. They do it one week, and then the next week they do almost the same thing, but they just do because they have 4 different parts on the. They have 8 different parts, and so they do 4 parts one day, and then they do 4 parts the next day because it's just too much to cover in one day.
A lot.
They do quite a bit. Anyway, well, just to put a plug in for Nate Doom. Nate Doom is producing this podcast right now, and he is going to be helping them with some of their production,
awesome.
The video and videography for those events.
Perfect. Yeah. That's great. So attend. That's the long and the short of that one. The website for more information is thesendingproject.org.
Cool.
If Not for Grace are still on our calendar. We've talked about them I think every time that we've done this, we've had something from them. They have their 2023 gala that's coming up on Thursday, September 28th. If Not for Grace is a ministry that really helps people that have been impacted by abortion.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Which is a really heavy thing, and it's almost kind of a secret thing that people don't often talk about. But here, men, women, families can go and just kind of get the support that they need. And this gala is a way for you to find out more about their ministry and then maybe even support it.
Yeah, I wonder, I mean, also it's another thing that because there's a political element to it, I mean, there is a political element to it. It becomes taboo, you know, especially in the Christian world. Like, oh, I had an abortion. Well, what's wrong with that? Well, you know, I'm grieving.
Right, exactly.
You know, I mean, so it's become something that we don't want to talk about, but it's like that's a real deal.
Well, you're exactly right, because anything that becomes political, especially when politics is just a hot and fiery thing right now, regardless of your stance. Yeah. The emotional impact gets minimized.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, like, but there is an impact here. But because it's become political, it's become taboo. Because we are diverse churches. We have both sides in the church. You know, it's like
it's complicated.
It's complicated, and it adds complication to something that should the person needs to address. Exactly. I mean, it's really sad.
It is sad.
But if Not for Grace Ministries addressing that issue directly.
Yes, the healing of post-abortion, the impact of post-abortion. So it's very cool. It's a great ministry. All right. Let's see. We got a couple more here. Soul Healing in the City. Have you worked with them at all? Did you ever do an interview with Soul Healing and Nancy Morgan? her crew over there.
Soul Healing. Is that Mary Brown part of that?
Mary Brown, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're reaching into all of your networking brain.
Yes.
I see it happening.
Well, I mean, like for instance, Daniel Breimer does worship watch and wait here, and he's usually at their worship. He's usually the worship leader at their events. So I mean, like, there's a lot of connections with Soul Healing. It's pretty diverse. It's a pretty big network.
It is a big network, and it is very diverse.
And I have been able to participate at least in one of their events that Mary Brown was hosting at Colonial. So.
Yeah, they do a lot of events at Colonial and Evangel and just a few other churches in the area. They do ministry events. I don't know if it's quarterly. It feels like it's about quarterly, where it would be maybe a Friday night and a Saturday morning with some teaching and then mini prayer sessions, like 15-minute prayer sessions.
Oh, cool.
But then you can also schedule longer prayer sessions with them, and they'll have their team come and set up a time to pray with you. And just great results. I have so many people that have been through that. I refer to their program all the time to receive healing.
I mean, it was really impactful too. I did not expect it to be so impactful. You know, you don't expect that. You know, like, but then once you start like walking through, like, I mean, they have like this little short like booklet you walk through, like might be maybe 2 pages long, and then you're like, oh, I'm hurting, I'm in pain.
Right. It opens it all right up.
It opens it all up.
And then God meets you there.
And then God meets you
Which
there.
is the important part, because people don't want to open it all up without resolution.
And I was surprised at the level of clarity of the post ministry. You know, like they were the people that were attending, that were you know, facilitating that. You know, there's probably, you know, because they had the event, they might have a leader of the event, maybe 2 or 3 leaders, but then there's like 5 to 10 different ministers that are working in the background. Those people were just like, I mean, like, I'm like, you want to come cry on my shoulders? I'll be like, I'm not sure. But these people were not afraid of people who were crying.
No, which is good.
Which is good.
It's
Yeah,
really good.
we need that, you know.
Yeah, honestly, this is one of my soapboxes you stumbled onto.
I figured.
And so I won't rest here long. I'll just hop up for a second and say, we do get afraid of other people's emotions, and we do tend to, we see somebody crying and we're like, how can I fix it? Like, what encouraging word can I say to you right now to reduce your pain? Yeah. It is an art form, and I believe it honors the heart of God to be able to sit with someone in their emotions, even when they're ugly and painful. Yeah. So, and you're exactly right. Soul Healing does that.
I found that their ministers are very well equipped to handle
They really are. They really are. They have their next open event, so this would be more of a teaching and then mini prayer, so you can kind of get a taste for what they do. Coming up on October 21st. It's only Saturday morning. It's 9 a.m. to noon, and it is at Colonial Presbyterian, actually, the Quivira campus.
Oh, that's a different one. I went to the one on 95th, but
yeah. I think I've spoken at a few of their different events, and most of them I think have been at Colonial. The Warnell campus.
The Warnell campus, yeah.
So for more information on them, you can visit soulhealinginthe.city.com. I didn't write it down, but I'm pretty sure it's .com. Could be .org, but we'll just leave that
if you look it up, you'll find it.
You'll find it one way or the other. All right, so 2 more events we've got. Maidens by His Design, led by Courtney Chapman. She is a doula in the area, so she helps women who want to do an at-home birth. And she has put together just this amazing 10-week course for actually teen girls and their moms, for girls ages 8 to 14. The course starts on September 7th, and it will be at Inspired Play Cafe in Leawood, Kansas. And it's all about just development and female health and kind of equipping girls for the rest of their life. And she has a really detailed outline of the content, and you'll know what you're going to get into when you get there, which is really good. You can register or get more information by emailing freshstartdoula@gmail.com. And I think we'll have the links for all of that.
I'll have it all in the show notes. So.
And me as well on our, I think we forgot to mention that last time, so I'm going to pop it in right here and say we do try to list all of these events on our website as well. TraumaHealingCenterKC.com. /calendar.
And that is always at the top of these show notes so that
So you
they
can
can
find
go
it that
there
way. Good
directly
deal.
if they want to.
Good
Yes.
deal.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's easier than taking notes as we're talking, trying to get all the websites
my
down.
gosh.
It's like, just click the link.
Just
It's
click the
easier.
link.
Yeah. Lastly, we have Hesed Discipleship Network. They are a healing and prayer and just kind of community building network here in the area. They have a couple events coming up for us to mention. Just a little bit about the focus of their events. They train on 5 relational skills to help build emotionally healthy community, which is what we were just talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, I feel like we've talked about that a lot today in
Yes.
several different ways. They call it their SALVE framework, and so that stands for Shalom, Appreciation, Listen to Your Body, Validation, and Emotional Maturity.
Oh, great, yeah.
All really important skills to have. Their groups are coming up. They've got a 4-week online course that will be beginning September 17th, and then a Friday evening and Saturday day in-person, more intensive training that will be October 13th and 14th. And they work closely with KC Underground, and so we're happy to be able to provide their information here. Their website is HesedDiscipleshipNetwork.com, where you can find more information.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. And
Yeah.
God, it was really good to catch up on all these events. And it seems like the event list is growing.
I know, which is exciting.
Yeah.
It would be nice at some point when we do our long podcast
Yeah.
that we can have it just chock full of events. Because
Yeah.
I know there's many more in the area
Yeah.
that we don't get to include. And I suppose it might be a good place here to mention, if you have an event that you'd like included on our calendar, you can email it to me. I'm probably the best way to make that happen. My email is melissaf@traumahealingcenterkc.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
God bless.